It had to be Alex DeBrincat, eh? It just had to be Alex DeBrincat that scores the game winner in overtime, and the Senators, for the second time in as many nights, get a point, but leave another one on the table. Welcome to the Postcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. The Postcast always brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. Check out the GCP where the vibes are free. Find them at 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. And check out the Send Shuttle. Round trip, $18 gets you to and from the rink. Pilsy, the Ottawa Senators finished the weekend with 2 overtime losses. They're unbeaten in regulation in 4 straight, 2-0-2. And yet everybody, ourselves included, are still very concerned.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a vibe cast for me, Ross. This isn't oh, nice, we stole a point here. Even though looking at this game individually, maybe you could think that, but just the taste in my mouth from yesterday's game and having a 2-goal lead to start this game off in today's game and not being able to get it done, and then just having it over in overtime so quickly. Like, typically I like the Ottawa Senators in overtime, but it just hasn't worked here. And it's a similar scenario that ends up finishing them here. A missed play on an odd man rush. Sanderson this time misses the net by a considerable amount, which is pretty rare for Sandy. And then the Wings come back the other way. Kopp sauce pass over an extended reach of Tim Stutz on the back check. And of all guys, it had to be Alex DeBrincat. I mean, the hockey gods are just laughing at the Sens at this point because that is just so painful to watch. What, 24 seconds or 34 seconds into overtime, something like that? Like, oh man, I should be happier about getting that point, but at some point when you're where the Ottawa Senators are in the standings, you gotta find a way to win games and double up on points there. Like, it's just not enough right now.
No, and I'll say it, if the Senators hold on and win last night in regulation, this is perfectly fine. Second half
Probably,
back-to-back
yes.
with travel. With all due respect, the Red Wings are tied with Tampa for first in the Atlantic Division. They played some extra games, but they've been playing good. They were waiting at home. They played San Jose on Friday. They were able to rest. It's just the fact it's DeBrincat. I mean, the 2 shortest players in the Eastern Conference scoring OT winners on you in back-to-back nights. Caulfield, right shot coming down the right wing, slap shot through Levitan. This was a perfectly placed shot from DeBrincat upstairs over the glove of James Reimer. We'll get into James Reimer a little bit more. Makes his Senators debut. First time all season, by the way, for the Senators that they get a goal saved above expected, above 0, and lose the game, albeit with an overtime point. They're now 15-0-1 in those circumstances. Yes, that's right. They've only had a goal saved above expected in the positives 16 times out of 48 games so far this season. But I want to start the show a little bit here with the overtime. Like, what is it about the Senators here in overtime that just has not been able to match what they did last year, where they had a fantastic overtime record? The Senators in OT this year, they got 7 losses and I think 2 wins, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, the one we were at in Winnipeg, and maybe one other one earlier on. Philly, they scored in overtime in that game, the road game earlier, but it's been a lot of losses now, 3 consecutive overtime losses at least. That dates back to the Buffalo game right before Christmas. Like, what is it? Why can't they win in overtime this year?
Yeah, I mean, all of those Atlantic Division rivals too, these last 3, it stings even more. I mean,
they lost to Boston earlier this season in overtime too, and they lost to Montreal twice in overtime this season.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you're getting 1 point there, but you got to find ways to convert to 2 there. And I don't fully remember all the other overtime goals, Ross. I don't have that encyclopedic memory that you do, but
Let's see if I can go through them. The Edmonton one was the first one. Jake Wallman, slap shot, just right in, beats him. The Dallas one was Rupe Hintz. I don't really remember how that one went in. Then they had that stretch where they had 2 straight. Montreal got one in overtime. That was Alex Newhook off the brutal giveaway from Drake Batherson. Then it was a scramble play with 6 seconds left where Zaka puts in a McAvoy rebound. Then then it was a while. Then it was the Buffalo one, Bowen Byram, and then the last 2 games on 2-on-1. So it's just really the last 2 where it's been that you miss at one end, they score on the other. I guess it comes down to probably getting an extra save, but I mean, this game is far from James Reimer's fault. This was one of the games where Ottawa gave up more than they had. And the 5-on-5 expected goals doesn't do that justice. Again, discipline cost the Ottawa Senators 5 more power plays given up, just like they did last night. And the PK, again, early, couldn't get it done, but I thought they were better as the game went on. It's just the same problems, right? That's causing this team some struggles right now. And I mean, I got to go back to it though, Pills. They're 2-0-2 in their last 4 games, and nobody is happy about that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a positive thing. I mean, unfortunately, this team has dug themselves in a big enough hole that's not good enough where you are right now. And every other team seems to be doing better or consistently winning games in this division and conference. Like, it's just so tough. And yeah, I think obviously the Habs game, you can look, you need saves, but Reimer, he did exactly what he needed to do tonight, in my opinion. He kept this team in it. You got to give a lot of credit to him. First NHL game, and I think they said like
since last April,
237 days, or maybe even more than that. Not a day's math guy, but he was good. And that one, I don't really blame on him. Like, that's Alex DeBrincat coming down on the wing, and he rips it. Like,
he did the old Patty Lalime move though, where he reaches up, but his glove's down. It's like he shrugs his shoulder up like that with the glove. Like, get your hand out there. But again, we're nitpicking on that. That's one of the best shooters in the game right now. It sucks to say it's his 26th goal of the year. Would lead the Ottawa Senators by, I think, 5 or 6 goals. Timmy had 20 at last check, 21 after his between the legs goal on Saturday. But yeah, unfortunate. But since we mentioned James Reimer, let's go through his stats here tonight. 30 saves on 34 shots. That's an .882 save percentage. Pillsy, that's how desperate we are for just a league average goalie that we're praising an .882 save percentage. But I mean, during regulation, he was very good for this team, above 900 save percentage in regulation for them. In high danger shots, he was 9 for 10. You can imagine the one that was considered high danger, of course, on DeBrincat. And he went 12 for 14 on saves on the penalty kill. Shout out to Everyday Sens for the stat pack there, but a plus 0.74 goals saved above expected. For me, it's not the stats that tell the story as much as the tracking, the rebound control, and the lateral movement from James Reimer. It just looked like a veteran in there, finally. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Which is crazy, Ross, because yeah, sure, he's a veteran, but he hasn't played in forever. So like, you'd think he'd be a little more rusty like he looked in that Belleville game, but he looked calm. He looked composed. There was times where, he makes the save and doesn't corral it or get it right away, but he's right on that rebound. He's able to, the Red Wings had like 4 or 5 really good tips, deflections in front. And sure, he might not be right on it, but he's positioned well enough that it hits him, and then he reacts smoothly and calmly to where that puck goes, and either the defenseman were able to get it out, or he's able to get in a spot where he's not putting himself in a bad position. So I got to be honest, I really liked James Reimer's game tonight, and that's got to instill some confidence in this team. Like, look, tonight we weren't the better team like we were up against Montreal or like we were up against Detroit last week. But we still were right there because we had a goalie that had an .880 save percentage, and that gave us enough of a chance to stick with it here. So yeah, you look at good goaltending, but undisciplined penalties again were kind of the Achilles heel, and unfortunately, some similar faces that are the guys heading to the box.
Yeah, let's save that for the next segment. Let's look back at how we got to a 4-3 overtime loss. The shots on goal in this game, 34-22 in favor of Detroit. And to put that in perspective, Ottawa dominated Montreal last night, and the shots were 34-19. Like, pretty polar opposite. Just on shoe on the other foot. Funny enough, Detroit goes 2 for 5 on the power play. Montreal went 2 for 5 on the power play. And Ottawa goes 2 for 3 on the power play tonight. They went 2 for 3 on the power play last night as well. Ottawa, though, tonight they get back in the win column in the faceoff dot. 59%. Ottawa with 24 hits to Detroit's 19. Blocks 11 for Detroit, 10 for Ottawa, and a 5-on-5 expected goals percentage, 54% in favor of the Ottawa Senators. So we'll get to discipline, but outside of that, Pilsy, what else are your takeaways from tonight's game?
I like that the Sens dominated in the faceoff dot. they were able to win more important faceoffs. I thought that was one thing I noticed in the Montreal game is big faceoffs they weren't winning. I think they did a better job of that tonight. The 5-on-5 play, you like to see those numbers where they are. Although I'm feeling like that stat is a little watered down recently, and score effects come into play. Not in this game necessarily, and also I don't have a full understanding of how they grade what are high danger, medium danger, expected goals, all those things. So that stat I'm not fully in on, but overall, like, they played good enough to win this game. Sure, you get outshot 34-22, but you're right there. Like, Detroit never really had a stranglehold on this game score-wise. Sure, sometimes possession-wise and shots-wise, again, they were. But if you're able to, like, if Sandy's able to at least hit the net on that shot, this could be a different game, because then hopefully you find a way to get that rebound, possess it in the O zone, and there's not a 2-on-1 rush coming back the other way where an elite shooter has a clear shot at the net.
Yeah, and Detroit pulled away in the second half of this game, which is to be expected to an extent when it comes down to the second half of back-to-back and everything. Shots on goal for the second and third period combined were 24-13 in favor of Detroit, 9-3 in the third period. You add the one shot, one kill in the overtime. So 10-3 in the final period and overtime of this game. You're hanging on. And Ottawa iced the puck a ton in the third period. They were just trying to get out of there, or at least get it to overtime. So they did accomplish that. But at this point in the season, still trying to figure out a way to get back into a playoff race. You need more. And you're going to go into Columbus on Tuesday. They'll have not played since Saturday. They're feeling good about themselves. They've won 4 straight. Actually, Ottawa and Columbus have the exact same records going into that game on Tuesday. 22, 19, and 7 records for both of those teams. And of course, Columbus hasn't lost since Rick Bowness took over behind the bench there. So it's going to be a big one on Tuesday, or a game where two teams are trying to claw their way out of it, right? Ottawa, neither team has a regulation loss in their last 4 games. You can put it that way if you want to put a positive spin on it for the Senators. But you got Nashville on Thursday, a much improved team after a disastrous start for them. And then another weekend back-to-back where the Senators will have 2 tough teams coming into the CTC, Carolina on Saturday, Vegas on Sunday. And I bring up that because against Vegas, the last time the 2 teams met, Ottawa got a shootout win in that one. That was 35 shots against in that game. Linus Ullmark was the goaltender. Tonight against Detroit is the second most shots the Sens have allowed in a single game this season. Only that Vegas game was more. So a rare night where the Senators give up more than typically, but funny enough, they've had their best goaltending performance in the last little while outside the Vancouver game. We'll give Levy that. He was solid in that 2-1 win against Vancouver, but this just adds even more importance to these 2 games on the road, 3-game road trip right now, where regulation losses just aren't an option anymore for this team.
Yeah, seriously. And I actually think it's a positive, Ross, that this was a game where the Ottawa Senators allowed more shots, because it allowed James Reimer to get into the game. Like, I think if it was one of those games where, like last night up against the Habs, where they only allow 19, 20 shots, and he's sitting there cold for long extended periods of time, I don't think that would have been beneficial for Reimer. I think it's good that he was feeling the puck, moving around, having to stay in the game mentally. So I know it sounds crazy to say, but sometimes for goalies, it's more of a positive to see more shots.
Let's get into the discipline. Next, you're listening to the Postcast presented by Locked On Senators. The Postcast always brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. Had some buddies there last night that said the live music was an absolute blast. And you can go check out the live music option at the Glebe Central Pub every Saturday night with no cover ever. Such a great way to spend your weekend. They've also got the Send shuttle to and from the CTC. The bus leaves an hour and 15 minutes before puck drop, getting you there in plenty of time to be in on the action. You don't want to miss a Linden Slewage anthem, of course, but you also don't want to miss time just sitting in the parking lot after the game. Shout out to the bus lane. You get to wave at everybody stranded in their cars and get right back to the pub. The bus picks you up exactly where it drops you off. It's easy as 1, 2, 3, and all for just $18 round trip. So head to the place where the vibes are free. It is the Glebe Central Pub, our pub in the heart of the Glebe. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you, and have a great time on the Glebe Central Pub Shuttle. You can get your tickets, GlebeCentralPub.com. Tickets are still available for the 4 remaining home games in January. You can get tickets for the Carolina, the Vegas games next weekend, Wednesday the 28th against Colorado, and wrapping the month up against the New Jersey Devils. All available at GlebeCentralPub.com.
This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most.
The Bears.
Oh, let's hear it.
No, just the Bears. That's what we're riding with, the Bears tonight.
Okay, yeah, and Ross was riding with his profit boost packs, and you can too. Pick a different one each playoff game day. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Welcome back to the postcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. Shout out to Jack Richardson for rocking the live stream once again. He is now 2-2-2 since going live. Well, the Senators are playing. And shout out to all the new subscribers on Locked On Senators YouTube channel. Let's keep that number rolling in the right direction. We appreciate each and every one of you for making us your first listen each and every day. A couple great episodes planned this week. We got one of our great friends of the show, Mike Kelly from Sport Logic. He'll be joining us a bit later this week to talk a little bit more behind the numbers of these Ottawa Senators, who fell tonight 4-3 in overtime to the Detroit Red Wings, a game where Ottawa got out to a 2-0 lead early. Drake Batherson's 19th of the season from Fabian Zetterlund and Thomas Chabot was the opening goal 4.5 minutes into the game. And then 30 seconds later on a power play, it's Dylan Cousins' 15th of the year from Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson. So Batherson had 2 points in this game just 5 minutes in. But then, well, it was just a minute and a half later that Axel Sandin Pellikka's seeing eye shot got through with traffic. He makes it 2-1 Ottawa. Stayed that way into the second when Lucas Reimer curl and drag shot. Kind of looked a little Austin Matthews-esque there, bringing it into his feet, using Sanderson as a screen and ripping it upstairs over James Reimer. That tied this game. It stayed that way for most of the period. 10 minutes later, James Van Riemsdyk must have seen Tim Stützle's between the legs last night and said, that looks fun. He does it right in front of the net. Great goal. Nothing you can do but tip your hat there. Another power play goal. That made it 3-2 Detroit. But Ottawa did not allow themselves to go into the intermission down. Shane Pinto's 14th of the season from Giroux and David Perron makes this game tied. And it stayed that way throughout the third until DeBrincat's 36 seconds into overtime made this one an overtime loss for Ottawa. But Pilsy, we got to talk about the discipline or lack thereof with this team. How do you fix it? Because Ottawa is at their best when they're playing aggressive, but clearly they haven't been able to find the line over these last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like it starts off with Nick Cousins, 2 minutes for elbowing Moritz Seider. Like, Cousins just rubbing him out along the boards there. Perfectly fine. That's good. Play the body. And then he throws the extra elbow at the end. You can't do that, especially when you're a guy like Nick Cousins that has a reputation. Refs are going to be looking for that. And that's off to a bad start. And then you go down. Ridley Gregg, that interference penalty, like that was a weird one because no call on the ice. Lucas Raymond goes down. Then they call it a major, which is what they do, because if you call it a major, you get an opportunity to look at it and you can assess whether it's a major, a minor, or what have you. They call it the major initially and then go to a 2-minute interference play, which I actually think was the right call.
It was just weird that it wasn't called while Ottawa had possession of the puck for the next 10 seconds. But yeah, it was definitely a penalty.
Yeah, for sure. Interference penalty. Like there's no doubting that. But I'm glad they kept it to 2 minutes, not the 5. I feel like that was more fitting for the crime. Sure, the result. You don't want to see any player go down like that, especially if you're the Red Wings. Lucas Raymond, that's a big part of your team. He did come back and play though. So that's an undisciplined penalty. Like Ridley Gregg, there's no need for that. Like that's just silly. And then David Perron, the holding penalty, and then Brady Tkachuk later, a tripping penalty. Like there's just a lot of these penalties didn't need to happen, and they're in bad spots again. A couple in the offensive zone. Ridley Gregg, that's in the neutral zone, way away from the play. Like, when you're this bad at penalty killing, going up against teams that are this good on the power play, like Montreal and Detroit, this is how you end up losing games and losing 2-goal leads.
Yeah, and it sucks too because it neuters the power play that's been great for Ottawa these last 3 games. The Senators' power play is 5 for their last 9. That's incredible.
It's good. Yep.
But unfortunately, it's just drawing even now back-to-back nights because you're giving up multiple power play goals at the other end.
And I feel like, Ross, when you take those kinds of penalties, that the other team is extra motivated to make you pay. Like when it's a penalty on like a tough play or something, that's one thing. But when it's undisciplined and emotional, then the other team's like, all right, they got their pound of flesh there. Let's get back at them on the scoreboard. And I feel like those are usually the ones where they capitalize.
Well, I think that's where you look at the retaliation because Elmond Soderblom took a penalty late in that second period, kind of doing something similar to Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, and
Ottawa made him pay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's typically how it goes, I feel like. That's hockey karma coming into play.
Seeing the chat say Shane Pinto point is a not. I mean, it was an overtime point. They're now 77, 17, and 10 when Shane Pinto gets a point, 12, 6, and 3 this season. Sens Fan and Van, boneheaded ozone penalties a trend, and we haven't even mentioned David Perron. So say what you want. Guy went down easy, bit of a hook, whatever, but this is just a common theme. That's 6 minor penalties for David Perron in the last 11 games. Dude. But he take it and then he give it because one thing you can't take away from David Perron, he is one of the best puck retrieval players on power plays. And he did that on the power play goal that was ultimately scored by Shane Pinto. He's a dog and a bone in the ozone. Like initially when he went out on the power play, and I know they practice their units, they're not just going to rip a guy off of it, but you're kind of like, where's the accountability after another penalty in the offensive zone for David Perron, another penalty that could have been avoided where he's taking down a player. Marco Kasper, good potential, but this guy's not going to kill you when he's coming out of his own zone. So I just thought that was a tough play for Perron to make, but he does kind of redeem himself afterwards. It's something I'm watching for these next couple of games for Perron, though, because he cannot keep putting his team down shorthanded.
Especially, Ross, when you've been demoted to the fourth line, like you're playing less, and in the minutes you are getting now, Travis Green is playing that fourth line more because they've actually been playing well, which is the frustrating spot, Ross. Like if they're playing a more disciplined game, you're really happy with how that line's been, and you're more than happy to play them more than 10 minutes a night. Like David Perron was a top 6 guy most of the time this year, and now he's down there taking bad penalties, and it's not good.
But that is the big issue with that line. And Lars Eller, put your headphones on. Don't listen to this. But
this is not you.
Nick Cousins, 3 minor penalties in the last 2 games, and David Perron has 2 minor penalties. The fourth line cannot be taking momentum away from you. That's the complete opposite of their limited minutes. And speaking of limited minutes, I was very surprised to see Drake Batherson only played 14:37 in this game. He had 2 points in the first 5 minutes. I did not understand. I don't know if he's banged up or what the case is, but that was a shocking number for me to see.
Yeah, especially after he starts so hot. But I mean, other than the start, Ross, I didn't really notice him much more. I mean, when you play less ice time, I guess that's fair. But like, he hasn't been playing that good away from the puck. Like he doesn't have his all-around game recently. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, but some guys played well today. We'll get to our standouts next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If you need to hire someone for this show, I would go to Indeed. And very specific about what I need: real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on the site are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Senators podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
Welcome back to the postcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and shout out to everybody making us your first listen each and every day. We've got a big week ahead for the Ottawa Senators. 4 more games. They go 2-0-2 last week. We turn the page tomorrow and get into the Columbus, Nashville, and to the road trip. And then you're starting what might be the toughest 4-game homestand you're going to get all year. Carolina, Vegas, Colorado, and then the New Jersey Devils. So you're looking at that Colorado game and saying, probably not. So up until then, you're looking at a point is nice, but now you're like, okay, we need 2 each and every game, because the Senators now, after this game, this was one of those days where only them and the Tampa Bay Lightning were playing in the Atlantic Division. Tampa, of course, they just win and win and win. That's all they do. So I don't even think we're looking at them anymore. It'd be crazy to at this point. But Ottawa, with the 1 point now, they find themselves 6 points back of the Buffalo Sabres. And now, after playing as much as they have recently, the Sabres actually have a game in hand on the Ottawa Senators. So it's still an extremely steep hill to climb if you're Ottawa, and it's unfortunate, but there were some really good performances tonight. So we'll get to our SensCentral Standouts presented by the Glebe Central Pub. Who do you have to lead us off?
Ross, we haven't got to do this in a while, but as a hashtag goalie-friendly show, I'd like to give my SensCentral standout to the goalie for the Ottawa Senators, James Reimer. I mean, oh my God, what world are we living in here? But for a Sens debut and for a team that struggled with terrible goaltending, we will take an .880 save percentage from a 37-year-old veteran playing his first NHL game of the season. I thought he was good. He made good saves at big times. He was calm. He was composed. The rebound control wasn't that bad. There was a lot of times where he had to come up with a big save on his own, and he did it. And the goals that were scored, like, none of them I'm really looking and like, oh man, like, that's a terrible goal or bad timing or what we've been used to. So
yeah,
I think it's a good game from James Reimer, and you hope that he ends up being the backup for the Sens this year when Ullmark comes back. Who knows when that'll be. And Levy gets to go back down to Belleville, get his confidence back up to where it needs to be and figure it out from there. But for debut, good game for James Reimer.
Yeah, the stat I'm really looking at here is the 9 out of 9 saves in the third period when Ottawa was clearly on their heels and not generating anything offensively except for that Shane Pinto chance off the rush where it was like, hey, we got to tip our hat too. That's 2 games in a row against Detroit where James Reimer has been very good. Like, he made some big saves tonight. That windmill save off the face-off, I think, on Batherson early in this game.
Oh, you mean Gibson?
Who did I say?
He said James Reimer.
Oh, nice. John Gibson. I'm saying there, like, that's 2 games in a row against Ottawa where he's been very good. So, look, that's not why the Senators lost this game. It wasn't a goalie.
Yeah, we didn't get goalied. Yeah,
no, but he was very solid when he needed to be, and he's a guy as well that looks very calm, cool, collected in net. So yeah, good call, James Reimer, your SensCentral standout in this game for very good reasons. So shout out to him for that. My SensCentral standout in tonight's game. Part of me wants to go with Drake Batherson, but outside of those 2 points, and again, it is 2 points. I didn't think that he really impacted this game a whole heck of a lot. You know what? I'm going to go with the guy who I think needs a little bit of praise because it's been a tough couple of games for him. I'm going to go with Thomas Chabot. I know that the defensive side of the game is still a bit of a work in progress with that line, but I thought overall, especially after the stretch that Chabot had been on, he had 7 games, 1 goal, the one against the New York Rangers that made it 6-0 in that game. That was his only point in the last 7. He was -7 in those games. So it was a nice bounce back for him. He's a +1, gets an assist, 3 block shots, 2 hits, 1924 or 1942 time on ice in this one. So I thought this was a nice game for Thomas Chabot.
Yeah, I like it. That play that he made to set up that goal to start the game off was really nice. Like, that was classic Shabby with the puck on a string there. So yeah, good game for Shabby.
Yeah, nice game. Nobody was like dominant in this game for Ottawa. You could tell they were gassed.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who you were going to go with there, Ross, because outside of Reimer, I didn't have a set guy.
No, exactly. All right, Pillsy, final thoughts on tonight's podcast. We've got a big show tomorrow. We will get into Belleville, who played in Ottawa, by the way, and there's some good storylines down in Belleville, but we'll save those for tomorrow. Final thoughts on what you saw in tonight's game.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy, Ross. After a 4-game losing streak, you go on a 4-game point streak, and we're feeling the way we are right now. I would have expected to be more positive, especially positive Pillsy. But I'm not there right now. When you look at the standings and you look at the way they're losing these games, it's tough. But this is a massive week coming up. Columbus, new coach bump. They've been winning games. Nashville has been figuring out both of those games on the road. And then, like you alluded to, big, tough stretch coming up here. So let's carry this momentum, even though it's not the greatest momentum. It beats a 4-game losing streak where you get no points. Let's carry this into this week. Get right. You got a new goalie in here, James Reimer. Maybe Linus Ullmark will play a game sometime soon. And Levy can get back to the minors where he can get some confidence and play some games. So,
yeah. 4 games this week. Buckle up, Sens fans. Take a deep breath here and reset, and hope the boys do the same thing here as they're heading to Columbus, where I'd imagine full day off again tomorrow because of the CBA. Play back-to-back. You get the 3rd day off after that. And then we'll see them on the ice for the morning skate ahead of a 7:00 game on Tuesday against the Columbus Blue Jackets, an identical team record-wise as the Senators. So they're going in the right direction. Ottawa has an opportunity to give Rick Bowness his first loss with the Jackets. We'll see if they can pull it off. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat. Let's get some GSG, some Go Sens Go, and hopefully another big week with more points. And look, Sens have 6 of their last 8 points. So you can kind of hang on that a little bit and say, we know that even in the regulation losses that they'd suffered, they had been playing some decent hockey. This wouldn't be shocking to see Ottawa be able to go on a bit of a run based on the way they're playing. But at the end of the day, results-driven business. And Ottawa finds themselves 6 points out of a playoff spot with 10 games on the ice tomorrow. We're going to have to do some hate watching here. I'm looking at Carolina Buffalo in particular because them and the Bruins are the 2 teams right now. After, like, Dwight made a great point. He commented on YouTube, Bills. He's saying it's not the 2 points that they lost this weekend. It's the 4 points they handed to their division rivals. Like, it almost feels like Detroit and Montreal they put a lot of distance between Ottawa and them just by that 1 extra point they each got.
Yeah, and it's not even statistically that I have an issue with it, Ross, because at this point, thinking about being in a top 3 spot in the Atlantic is just crazy for the Ottawa Senators. It's just such a piss off that they get to walk away happy about this weekend and they get to climb all over the Sens and cement themselves in those top 3 spots even more.
9 games between now and the Olympic break. So they're going to have to make up some ground during those 9 games. There's no other way around it. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you to everybody who joined us after each and every Ottawa Senators game. We appreciate the chat so much, and we are hoping that the Senators will give us more to vibe about in the foreseeable future. I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been another postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and the Glebe Central Pub. Check out the GCP 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.